I lose myself within his bright eyes, drunk on the pleasure I am now experiencing. Did he touch you, here? He lets one finger linger on my other arm. I nod quickly, urgently. His kisses deepen as they cover my slender arm, and his breath begins to get even more agitated. A growl rumbles in his throat, almost like a wolf, and he holds the neck of my hospital gown and rips it. He flings it off me as if it nothing, and then his breath catches as he surveys me. "You are so beautiful," he whispers, and I am speechless. This tenderness is so intoxicating that I nearly drown within it. His attention immediately snaps to my mating mark by my neck, and his head dips towards it. A small cry escapes me as he kisses the mark, which starts to glow and send waves of pleasure through my form. His kisses are deepening to the point where I can barely stand it. "Please, Xavier, please," I beg, causing his eyes to light on fire. His hands are roaming over the edges of my body, and he kisses my collarbone. With a hungry expression, he lifts the folds of my tank top, pushing it upwards so it exposed my stomach. His gaze darkens as he surveys the mark near my hip. "Did he touch you, there?" He gestures towards the mark. I just looked at him for a moment. Then nodded. He immediately kisses my stomach. Every one of his kisses surrounding the mark but none of them touching it. "This is the one part of you that belongs to him," he angrily states. "But nothing else will." His hands run over my hips and his lips soon join in. There is a fire that consumes both of us, overwhelming our bodies, hearts, and reason. He is so careful with me, his caution almost annoying to me in some way. "Xavier," I whisper again, closing my eyes. When I open them again, he is by my feet, holding one of my legs as he hastens to cover it in kisses. It is a wonderfully distracting feeling, but soon I am drawn to the fact that I somehow want more. "I'm sure he touched you here," he points at each one of my toes, and casts me a glance so deep that it gives me the shivers. I'm pretty sure he didn't, but I nod anyway. Just as I expected, each one of his kisses make me yearn for more. He stops for a minute, looking at me as he is lifting his head. I pout a little, annoyed both by the lack of kisses and by the idiot he has turned me into. I barely even recognize this side of me. This strange part of my being that aches for Xavier in ways that I don't even know of. However, I can't help myself, and I turn towards him and reach with one hand. He takes it, and suddenly he is almost on top of me before I realized he moved. It is now that I notice his hunger that has intensified by so much since this whole thing started. He wants the same thing I want, and something tells me he knows exactly what that is. His face is inches from mine, and both of his hands cup my face. "Did he kiss you here?" He looks at my eyes, and doesn't wait for a response as he kisses my eyelids, then my cheeks and nose. My lips burn, but he never touches them. With a smile, his mouth reaches my ear and teeth nibble the edge with a gentleness that surprises me. Finally, he returns to my face, looking at my lips the same way that I'm looking at him. We are both so close, so incredibly close. "Did he kiss you here?" We both know what he is talking about this time. I stare at him for a minute, dazed by his closeness, and softly murmur, "No, Xavier." "Good," he nods in satisfaction. "Then I will be the first and only one to taste this delicious part of you. To finally bond with you." Excitement builds up as I eagerly close my eyes and tilt my face forward. His lips descend upon mine. Thump, thump. We are both jolted out of our own world as a furious hand raps upon the heavy, soundproof doors. "Griffin," I mutter. Words cannot describe how angry I feel at this moment. I feel cheated. "Act asleep," he whispers urgently, grabbing the fragments of my dress and throwing it in the garbage chute. He sweeps the covers over me and walks calmly to the door, opening it slowly. Griffin is obviously furious. So I force my eyes to close and steady my breathing from 100 miles per hour to a normal rate. "What do you want, Griffin?" Xavier asks calmly. "What did you do to her?" He yells. "Calm down. Griffin. Don't be loud. She's sleeping." There is silence for a minute, probably because he is trying to calm down. "Do you really have to lock the door?" He finally asks. "Well, I'm imagine if someone like you barged in here without the door locked, she would have woken up easily. And she needs rest." His voice lowers. "Griffin, she's sleeping. How could I have done anything to her? It is always folly to underestimate someone, and it certainly will be the death of me to underestimate you," he replies slowly. "Just know this. Even if she does not now, she will belong to me. And when that time comes, I would prefer it if you stayed away from her. If she ever does belong to you, Xavier laughs. I will do as you say. There is silence, then loud footsteps. The door swings to a shut, and Xavier moves to my side. I am obviously not welcome here, Xavier chuckles as he reaches my side, stroking my hair lightly. It is time for me to stop acting like an idiot and start acting like the woman I am. I search within my brain for something to say. Something that will make him just as crazy as he makes me. Wow. This is difficult. You are always welcome right here. I pat the place next to me, then nearly kick myself. I am so bad at this. Nevertheless, I still notice the hunger entering his gaze. It diminishes slightly as he laughs. You are so funny, Mona. You make it so hard for me to resist you. You don't need to resist. Xavier, I whisper, looking into his eyes. You really don't. He stares at me for a moment. Stone-faced. Mona, that's not fair. You aren't supposed to say that. I can say what I want to say. I touch his face, slowly lowering it to mine as I finger one of his azure locks. My fingers dance across his face eagerly. I have a lot of things to teach you, he laughs. But looks like you have already mastered how to tempt a man. He smiles again, then suddenly delves towards me. Our lips meet in a startling union that shocks me to the bone. His kiss deepens and I respond almost violently, touching his face and hair. For some reason, I can't get enough of him in these few moments, and he is calmly dealing with me as if I am a child. He is the one who eventually breaks away from me, grinning widely. I have never known of such satisfaction and pleasure in my entire life, which I guess isn't saying too much. If I knew his kisses were this good, I would have bonded with him earlier. Goodbye, Mona. There will be more later. He winks at me, then leaves the room quietly. For many minutes after I am still holding two fingers to my lips, completely and utterly shocked by the wonderful feelings racing through my body and the tingle of his lips still dancing upon mine. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. It is time for me to appear before the council, and I am ashamed to admit that I am frightened. I have the feeling that this is the time that they will deliver my fate. Throughout this last week, I have been allowed time to recuperate in my room, and I have not seen any of the pack members or Griffin since the last time Xavier visited me. I am perplexed at this disease I am catching. My skin still shivers at even the thought of his name, and even today I have been shamefully dreaming about him. I feel like even the sight of him will cause me to throw myself at his feet, begging once more for his touch. I have degraded myself by thinking about a man like him in this manner. I deserve the worst of tortures for acting like the worst of women. I have heard of them, those women who lust for a man's touch, who would die for their chosen man. They always suffer from carrying this type of sickness, although they always claim that they are better because of it. I have never understood these women and children my age who profess to truly be in love, because it seems like a troublesome emotion that everyone would do better without. Of course, except when you are trying to heal a shifter. And now I have been reduced to this. I feel like saying a line from old-century poetry. It has to be because of the bonding. Why the crap did I let him kiss me? Woe is me, I exclaimed dramatically, falling upon the bed. After a second of recollection, I jump back to my feet as if shocked by lightning. It is true, I really do have this disease, and even a touch upon the bed that both Xavier and I were in brings a wave of emotions that I would rather forget. I feel dizzy, sinking to my knees. Xavier, what have you done to me? I moan softly, putting my head in my hands. I am corrupted forever as a result of just one of Xavier's touches. A knock on the door interrupts my regretful thinking. Straightening to my feet, I hesitantly walk over to the door. Creaking it open, I soon am confronted with Griffin's enchanting face. Guilty attraction tugs at me, although it is slightly different from the need that washes over me whenever I think of Xavier. Smiling brightly, he reaches for my hand. I'm here to escort you to the meeting room, he says, looking devilishly handsome in dark pants and a black button-down shirt. My hand burns in his grasp as he reaches and places a delicate kiss upon it. He really is sweet. I would be better off dreaming about someone like him. For some reason, my hand burns in a bad way, almost as if to leave a black mark on my skin that will not disappear. I frown, rubbing at the spot as we walk into the hallway. I'm sorry for blowing up on Xavier while you were recovering. I'm an awful person, he says sadly. I smile in response. I was never mad at you, I acknowledge softly. I was just extremely jealous. Mona, he looks at me, eyes of worry. I lost you once, and I don't ever want to let go again. He seems so sincere that I can't help but believe him. Were you completely serious about everything you said the day I met with the council? I ask him honestly, surprised to find that I am not even frustrated at him. I feel like I should be mad, but the emotion doesn't come as I reach for it. That is exactly how it happened, he answers me with a little laugh. His auburn hair glows in the light from the gigantic windows stretching from wall to wall. Silence reigns for several minutes. It feels almost awkward to me, with Griffin trying to not even look at me as I think. All right, we are here. I suddenly realize that we are standing right before the big wooden doors that I had seen once before. Consumed in my thoughts. I had not even realized that we were still walking. A twinge of sadness enters me. I would have enjoyed hearing stories from when I was young. When we were together. We can talk about whatever you wish later, he laughs and touches my arm softly. I'm glad you got to think for a minute. The same burn as before occurs, shocking me immensely. I don't really understand this feeling, which consists of such attraction and mild repulsion. The guards standing by the doors push them open slowly. Fear and sadness pounds in my heart as I survey the familiar room. It is covered in vines and budding flowers, almost exactly decorated in the same way it had been before the shifter attack, and at the same table sits the entire council. Come in, a voice booms, nearly frightening me out of my skin. We have been waiting for you. Marcus stands up immediately as I approach, offering a heartbreaking smile. He gestures to me in a way that I have come to recognize, and I mirror the movement. Have you recovered during this last week? He asks genially. Yes. High one. The other council members look impatient as pleasantries are exchanged. We have been heavily discussing this matter over the past few days. Giselda speaks finally of the issue everyone is desiring to hear about. And we decided to inform you of your current situation and of new responsibilities and privileges that will come if you choose to accept the position we offer you. All I can think about is the word position. Position. Are they going to force me to be in their werewolf army? I picture myself in a battlefield surrounded by sweaty, unfamiliar werewolves and shudder. Griffin mentioned that you were a candidate before the shifter attack. Do you know what he meant by that statement? She asks me. I shake my head rather fiercely. Please don't let it be something bad. Please don't tell me anything that will give me another heart attack. A candidate is our term used to describe someone who is eligible to complete the prophecy that defines our existence. The prophecy has no name because of its vast importance to our race. I have read it before, I say. Although I didn't make much sense out of it. As you know, werewolves have a very keen sense of smell. They are even able to detect emotions, and some can even read thoughts through the sense of others. In this way, we are able to detect a candidate. At your birth, and the birth of several others like you released a smell that every single werewolf recognizes, though even we cannot describe it. It is such a compelling and powerful aroma that we are instantly able to locate the baby from hundreds of miles away. However, this aroma vanishes within a few hours, and we lose track of the boy or girl if we do not have a werewolf trailing them. Usually the shifters somehow kill them before they reach adolescent years, despite the protection we offer. Your guardian, of course, was Griffin. Giselda casts a slightly sickening glance at Griffin as he stands beside me. And in case you were wondering, he wasn't supposed to mate with you. That's not normal for a candidate and guardian relationship. Griffin blushes and shrugs helplessly as a tiny giggle escapes me. Several years ago, you were reported to be dead by Griffin, and therefore eluded our supervision for the rest of your childhood. We do not know all of the details, but your pack member with the blue hair told us he found you in the forest a few months ago. We are also led to believe that you displayed your powers to Pack 101 while in their company, correct? I nod slowly. This is confusing me. Your extraordinary power to control the shifters, even drawing them out of humans, has proven you to be the one special candidate we have been looking for. Before now, such an ability was unheard of. The prophecy is very vague on this matter, but we see the truth very clearly, especially after the display you put on a week ago. You are not only the last living candidate we know of, but the chosen one. Chosen one. Is that my position? I ask in alarm. What does a chosen one do? Does the chosen one have to lead an army? Griffin notices my fear and laughs, slightly brushing against my arm. Sparks fly throughout my body. Not so fast, Cyrus laughs. We have a proposition for you. My heart races so fast I feel like it is going to explode. Strands of bright red hair fall into my eyes, but I am so frozen in place that I can't even brush them away. We invite you to live here, at headquarters, Cyrus begins. Where you will be given anything you ever desire. You will be able to learn how to master your skills under our extremely talented instructors, how to become so powerful that you are unstoppable, and most importantly, how to truly become one of us. There is a pause for a minute while I try to register what he said. When realization hits me, I nearly fall to the floor. Did they say anything about an army? Because it sounds a lot like they want me to undertake military training. I'm really not good at that stuff. This is only the tip of the iceberg, Marcus adds quickly after he notices my extremely pale face. In addition to these things, we would normally offer you the highly sought-after rank of being the heir to the throne's partner, but seeing that you have complicated circumstances surrounding your mating, we thought it would be better to offer you something slightly different. Please don't grant me leadership of a werewolf army. If you decide to stay, we will allow you to have Griffin as a partner and he shall obtain the rank of heir to the throne. We will also be willing to conduct a ritual known as Sharukan, which is a long and difficult process that will allow you to be freed of your second mating. We have used it only once before, but we are confident in its abilities to release you from all attraction, bonds, and any feelings of love you may hold towards your mate. What? Ferrers roars, jumping to his feet in anger. Griffin just looks at Cyrus in confusion. But the thing that startles me the most is not the same thing that Ferrers and Griffin are surprised about. All of that other stuff has not even crossed my mind yet. The dizziness expands to encompass my entire vision. I stumble and trip on air and hurtle towards the floor. This is not happening. They did not just say they could release me from him. That I could be freed from this awful, terrible disease. I fight to escape reality once more as my head hits a hard surface, and succeed as the pain shocks me into unconsciousness. The last thing that crosses my mind is the word free. To be or not to be. That is the question. I have never been good at making decisions. Especially important ones. Especially ones that have the potential to end the entire existence of either the werewolf or shifter race. Mona, dear. You seem to be swooning on us whenever you come in this room. A pearly, magical laugh travels towards my ears. Two guards hasten to my side, and although my eyes are closed, I can sense their heavy footsteps. It is Griffin who gets to me first, his cold hands touching my arms lightly, and then brushing across my forehead. At first his touch is icy, then filled with a heat that brands me like an iron. A scream echoes through the room, and it takes a moment for me to realize that it is mine. Each touch seems to be getting worse. I don't remember it hurting this bad before. My eyes fly open and the first thing I see is Griffin's face, twisted with worry. What is wrong? Mona, he asks me softly. I say nothing, reaching with one slender arm to touch my forehead. It burns. It burns like nothing I have ever felt before. A small cry escapes me. Is it your forehead? What are you feeling? His beautiful brown eyes search me anxiously, peering somehow into the depths of my soul. His hand reaches up and alarm immediately enters my body. My arm suddenly is pushing him away, tears flowing from my face. What is this agony? Griffin draws back in surprise. Hurt in his eyes. I feel so disappointed. So guilty as he turns away. Please, stars are dancing before my eyes as I struggle to my feet. The two guards steady me as I start to wobble. I'm fine. Where am I? What is? Do you not remember anything? Marcus questions. I shake my head in response. Sorry, it is just, memories are swirling within my head. I grab my temples when I find that a hole seems to exist within my memories, a hole that somehow seems to correlate with the spot where Griffin touched me. I angrily grasp for it back, and faded wisps start to return. It takes a minute for me to finally recover everything that had happened. Free, I murmur, falling back into a chair that the guards had retrieved. Sharukan seems to give you quite the shock, Giselda comments. I know it is an experimental procedure, but we feel quite confident that it will deliver the desired results. Random thoughts are distracting me, making it difficult for me to listen to the counsel. Xavier's face keeps appearing before me, his green eyes staring into my soul. I try to think of what he would tell me right now, and the imaginary Xavier's expression morphs into a face of pure despair. Xavier melts my heart with one look as he begs, my mind flashing to that one night at the hotel. Just please, let us be anything but this. You can treat me like dirt, or a child, for anything from you is better than nothing at all. I can be a plaything to you if you wish, as long as I am something. Please, don't do this to me. I nearly fall off the chair when I realize that I accidentally spoke the last plea aloud. It is as if I am finally returning to reality, only now remembering that I am with the council and they can hear my every word. Subconsciously I clutch my head in my hands and start to cry. I can't get rid of the mental image of Xavier's face as he asks for forgiveness. Pardon me, Giselda asks with a clear tone of disapproval. I struggle to regain my senses. I cannot follow through with the procedure. High 1. Griffin turns to stare at me, icily surveying my discomfort. And why is that? He asks so softly that I barely realize he is actually speaking. I turn a deep shade of scarlet red. This is it. This is crunch time. I just can't, I mumble, looking away from Griffin. Away from everyone. This disease is destroying me. Even now I am lusting for Xavier's touch, and honestly, it feels like I would die without it. I just know I can't go through the procedure with a condition like this. After a shocked silence, Cyrus narrows his eyes. I glance at him warily. We understand you have some feelings for your past mate, he begins. And we regret that you have fallen into such a predicament. Such a situation would not be wished upon anyone, especially any of our own. However, you must understand that upon your shoulders rests the destiny of the werewolf race. You are so crucial to our mission, our purpose as werewolves. This is why it is so important that you accept our offer. We are not acting in our own best interest, but in the best interest of our entire race. We implore you to consider our offer. Marcus speaks firmly. Griffin steps closer to me, though his eyes are on the council. She needs time. Allow her some time to think. He speaks with the regal authority of a king, but I can tell he is nervous. Ferrers looks slightly relieved, most likely at the chance that he may keep his current position. She does need time. I agree, he says quickly. The council discuss among themselves whether to allow me more time. I try not to overhear them, although it is difficult not to. Seriously. I am about to have a temper tantrum. If they don't give me any time. We will deliver an ultimatum tomorrow at noon, Cyrus finally says. His words nearly scaring me out of my skin. You may leave now. So now I have less than a day to decide whether to help the werewolf race and lose Xavier in the process or abandon it entirely. Certainly seems like a lose-lose situation. I can only wonder what Xavier's real reaction would be if he was here. And I also can't help but ask myself why I care so much. Griffin touches the small of my back with his hand, and it doesn't hurt because of the layer of cloth. I breathe a sigh of relief. I hate that I feel like this, but there is not much I can do. I had no clue that this bond between Xavier and I would become such a curse. He tentatively leads me outside of the meeting room, acting as if I was made of glass. What's wrong with you? He asks angrily, as soon as we leave the room. His face is twisted in anger and confusion. I stare back at him with the same expression. He glares at me, then turns away briefly. When he looks back, he is somewhat subdued. More like the Griffin the Scotty I know. I don't know. I guiltily glance at him, then at my outstretched hands. Whipping my head around, I search for anyone besides Griffin. As a guard leaves the meeting room, I pounce. Running to him, I place one hand on his. He jumps away as if I set him on fire. I am sorry. Chosen one. Did I offend you? He asks in anguish, caressing his hand and kneeling before me. My hand doesn't burn in the slightest, and I stare at it in curiosity. In fact, a warm tingle spreads through my body and makes me smile. Mona. It's Mona. I bend beside him, looking into his emerald green eyes. Did my touch hurt you? I feel sorry for him because of the shock and alarm I can detect in his eyes. No, chosen one, he responds softly. But nobles never touch me. I am sorry for acting in a detestable manner. I am not a noble. And I am Mona. I don't want you to call me by any other name. And stop apologizing. I hate to see such a handsome guy kneel before me in such a manner. I don't deserve this measure of respect. I apologize. He bows his head, and then tentatively rises to his feet. He disappears within seconds, narrowly managing to avoid my anger. He completely ignored me, forgetting about the guard within seconds. I turn back to Griffin, ashen with the realization that it is only him. It is only your touch I cannot bear. I whisper, staring up into his eyes. He looks back in horror. What can you possibly mean by that? He asks, subconsciously reaching towards my arm. I snap it away, ashamedly glancing at the ground. I can tell him. I can tell him of this awful disease that has robbed my every desire, hope, and stray thought. I say nothing, guiltily looking around me. After a second of hopeless deliberation, my thoughts turn to the one who started all this. The one that made me look like an idiot in the meeting room. I have to see him. I have to talk to him. I shake my head, and then deliberately turn away from Griffin for the millionth time. I'll find that guard. He will tell me where he is, where who is. Griffin asks, his voice escalating in anger. Mona, you better tell me right now who you are talking about. He stalks after me as I travel in the direction of some nearby guards. It is then that I realize that surely Griffin would know. I stop and look into his brown eyes pleadingly. Please, Griffin, please take me to Xavier. His eyes seem to light on fire when he hears me, and he seems to snarl underneath his breath. So it is really all about him, isn't it? He asks sarcastically. You can even touch me, but you moan about him constantly. What has he done that I haven't? I have protected you from day one, no. Griffin. You don't understand. Well, neither do I, but that is beside the point. Well then, enlighten me. He crosses his arms over his chest. His eyes drill holes through mine. I am not getting out of this one. Tears start to fall from my eyes. It's the. He softens as he watches my meltdown for a few seconds. What is it, sweetheart? The endearment stings as I start to fall before him. He catches me on the way down, touching my arm and waist. Instantly I burn as if on fire, screaming loudly. He shifts his hand so that a layer of cloth separates us instantly, and the relief slowly comes. I cannot control the sobs. No matter how hard I try. He holds me for a while, and I temporarily forget myself in his embrace. I forget about my tainted body, my horrible afflictions. It feels like I have almost regained a missing piece of myself. But of course, it only lasts for a moment. I am cursed. Griffin, I whisper, staring blankly upwards. I need to talk to Xavier about the curse, but Mona didn't you hear? He asks quietly, steadying me. Hear what? Silence enters the room for a few seconds while Griffin seems to ponder exactly how to phrase his next words. He gone, Xavier . I pace the room, worry creasing my brow. What am I supposed to do? Ray, I ask a figure huddling in the corner of the room. The bundle of fur shakes its head, and then wearily turns to lie on the cold floor. It has been 2 long days since I have seen Mona, and each second has been like an eternity. If I think really hard, I can still remember her lips upon mine. It feels so good for a minute, but then I remember that I am never going to see her again. The second Mona stepped upon the table to send the shifters away, I knew that the council would never give her back. Maybe Mona didn't notice, but I saw the glimmer of excitement in Cyrus's face. He is such a sly old dog wanting to get his dirty paws on the only good thing that happened to the werewolf race in hundreds of years. The others had a similar expression, but none compared to his. I want to pitch a fit about finding her first and all that, but turns out I didn't even do that. Some guy beat me to the punch and I didn't even know it. In addition, he stole her heart as easily as it took me to fall in love with her. Although I guess her heart didn't belong to me anyway. It sure changes things, looking at the situation like this. I never thought myself to be a thief, but turns out I am in jail for a reason, if not the one they put me in here for. I finger the bars of the cell, made out of a strange metal that cannot be bent by werewolves. Trust me, I tried. We are not getting out of this place without help from the outside. What I really hate about being locked in here is that I am truly helpless. It makes me think of all the other times when I have been like this. The list stretches on, though most recently Mona's awakening stirred a similar reaction in my chest. It really hurts not being able to save the people I love. Does Mona really need saving? I sit down, placing my head in my hands in frustration. I suppose she is safe here. More than she ever was with me. It seems like every time she was near me she would land in a near-death experience. Griffin looks like a more capable guy than I am, although I would like to think of myself as more handsome. Of course, it isn't true, and we couldn't be any more different. He looks more human-like than I without the green eyes and crazy hair.